Good afternoon, friends. Stephen Benoon with Israeli News Live, and I'm looking at this satellite photo there, United States pictured there, and the storm coming across looks like a tidal wave. I mean, it's nutty as you can possibly get. Looks like a tidal wave in reverse. Just makes me wonder if it's not almost not like a subliminal message to us there. Listen, today we are going into some very troubling news, starting with Ehud Barak coming out finally saying things that he should have said a long time ago. I forgot this on my wife's Twitter account. Charles shared quite a few things with us as well. We're going to be looking at that, looking at the man Ehud Barak as well. Going to be going into Congressman Thomas Massie. And then to top it off, an amazing, interesting article or video that came out. This one's actually in English. That supports a little bit about what Thomas Massie just said, and then a lot more information to share with you here on Israeli News Live. So today, it is November the 1st, 2024. A lot of people have election on their mind, and I can tell you right now, as you begin to think of that, I want you to really start thinking seriously about the situation of Israel, the support that people do. I've just tweeted a couple of things on our Israeli News Live Twitter account there, just remembering the little children that have been killed in this war, and the total neglect of all these more than 10,000 children killed in Gaza, and it seems like nobody seems to care. I mean, it's like literally the mindset of Zionism has gotten so bad that people have totally forgot that Jesus Christ actually came, that he was the promised child. He was the seed of the woman. He is the seed of Abraham. He is the one that was going to be the blessing to all the nations. But yet instead, we still turn right back around and support a rattlesnake instead that will literally cause the death of not just all these tens of thousands in Gaza dying, but it will become a global catastrophe. How many already have died in the war against Iraq? Americans that lost their lives as well, not to mention the Iraqis that lost their lives too, and it just never seems to end. I mean, you think about it, right? In Genesis, the first murder that was ever committed, Cain killed Abel, and God said that he put a mark that no one would kill him, that it was not for man to go out there and rage this revenge cycle here. Let's get started, though. Ehud Barak here on CNN here, and I want you to hear a little bit about what he had to say here. Very interesting in regards to the things that are going on in Israel. Now, Ehud Barak, for those that don't know, he was the Prime Minister of Israel from 1999 to 2001. He did serve time in jail for bribery charges, and but it almost seems like he was set up. Now, of course, he's got some nasty blood on his own hand. He was a general, but Barry Chamish, my good friend Barry Chamish, an Israeli journalist, really brought out a lot of that information. But let's listen to what he has to say here.
The real enemy that we have is not Iran, which is an enemy. It's not Hezbollah, which is an enemy. It's not Hamas, which is an enemy. The real enemy is from within. The messianic, crazy, extreme groups of Israelis that think that they can kick out the Palestinians and annex the territories. I'm fighting against them, I'm campaigning against them, and I think that this is incumbent upon the Israeli government and Netanyahu. Unfortunately, Netanyahu depends on them politically to the extent that he closes his eyes and he allows them to do things which are totally intolerable and unacceptable. I will say.
Now, I mean, think about that. He admits that Hamas is an enemy. He admits that Iran is an enemy. He admits all of this, but he said that's not the real problem. The problem is within. The problem is with Netanyahu and his right-wing coalition, his extremists of the Messianic movement that is trying to bring about prophecy. That's an Israeli former prime minister, former general, the most decorated military officer in Israel's military history there, making that statement. Now, of course, like I said, he doesn't come without his own problems, his own blood on his own hands. But we'll come back to that in just a minute as we look at the rise and fall of Ehud Barak, Times of Israel, along with other things. This is the way you probably remember him better there without a beard there. So if you just remember who this man is, and we'll look at that in just a moment. Before we do, though, let me come back over here to Thomas Massie. I actually quote him in the book I'm writing right now because I find this very fascinating. He is the only congressman in the U.S. Congress that will not support APAC. Now, he was in an interview with Tucker Carlson, and I just really find it hard to believe that Tucker Carlson does not know who APAC is. I know that cannot be true. That is just totally false that he makes that statement. But this little short clip is snippets of several things that he said there when he was on with Tucker Carlson, and I want you to be able to hear this. Listen in.
Everybody but me has an APAC person.
What's that mean, an APAC person?
It's like your babysitter, your APAC babysitter, who is always talking to you for APAC. They're probably a constituent in your district, but they are firmly embedded in APAC. And
Every member has something like this?
that's how it works on the Republican side. And when they come to DC, you go have lunch with them. And they've got your cell number, and you have conversations with them.
That's absolutely crazy.
I've had 4 members of Congress say, I'll talk to my APAC person. And it's literally what we call them, my APAC guy. I'll talk to my APAC guy and see if I can get him to dial those ads back.
Why have I never heard this before?
Why would they want to tell their constituents that they've basically got a buddy system with somebody who's representing a foreign country? It doesn't benefit the congressman for people to know that, so they're not going to tell you that.
There you have it. APAC, which is the Israeli lobby that controls Congress and the Senate. And they really do. And don't kid yourself, it's not just Republicans that APAC controls either. Both houses dismissed to go watch Netanyahu. Believe me, their APAC guys were pushing it. Here we have a Islamic cleric from Michigan, Ahmed Kazwini, and his comment on Memory TV about APAC. Listen to what he has to say.
Sit down and really come up with some efforts on how to change this continuous blind support for the Zionists, and we can change it internally, brothers and sisters. We can change it because politicians in this country worship themselves. They worship their seats.
Very
you can
true.
buy them
Very true.
in the same way that you buy a slave. Some will even go in the same way that you would buy a prostitute. You buy these individuals. They all have a price. That's why APAC has bought all of them. The more money it gives them, the more they will be pro-Israel and pro-Zionist. It's not a coincidence, brothers and sisters. I was reading the other day, the wife of Sheldon Adelson, Miriam Adelson, Zionist, billionaire Zionist here, right? She's promised, I don't know, $200 million for Donald Trump if he gets rid of the Palestinians. Wallahi, if someone takes a check out and gives Donald Trump $200 million to destroy the Zionists, he's going to do it. But you know what the problem is? We don't put our money where our mouths are. We just like complaining. You don't think we Shias have money?
Think about that. Think about what he says there. You know, money has bought and paid for the support of Zionism. And it's no different than the churches as well. There are many Christians that are waking up to the control that the Jewish state, the Jewish people, not the Jewish people per se, but the Zionist state of Israel, Netanyahu especially and his coalition there, the power and the influence they hold over the Christian community. And this has gone on for years. I mean, you can go back to Shimon Peres. This was by Barry Chamish that he wrote years ago in 1979. Yitzhak Rabin published his autobiography. Within was one line offbeat quote. He said that unlike all Jewish children growing up in Poland, Shimon Peres spent his early education at a Jesuit school. This whole thing about the Schofield theology, a man that converted to Christianity, really that didn't even really have the training, was charged with some kind of fraud scheme that he did. He got in trouble for in prison, then comes out. But then the next thing you know, he writes this Bible commentary and becomes very famous Oxford, I think, is the one that published it, if I remember correctly. And the Moody Bible Institute promoted his Bible, and the rest is history. We totally changed the views of our early church fathers, early church Christianity that was teaching what the truth of gospel of Jesus Christ really was. And instead, now we went into this new Zionistic approach. Cyrus Scofield, no wonder. I mean, think about his own name, Cyrus, right? Just like the biblical Cyrus building, that rode on this famous Cyrus cylinder to go back and build the second temple and to rebuild it, build Jerusalem back for the coming of the Mashiach, the Messiah. But in the book, as I clearly point out, that decree that they're trying to change, that one according to Daniel that wants to change the decree, not the law. He doesn't come to change the times and the law, the Torah. He comes to change the times and the decree. It is a Persian word. The word dat is a Persian word that was adopted into the Hebrew language, which is a king's decree that clearly shows that he was going to change the time of when Artaxerxes and Cyrus and Darius all were for the building of the second temple, restoring it back in Jerusalem for the coming of Jesus Christ, but instead tell you that this is the day that it's going to happen. This is why I'm trying to cry out, trying to wake people up to what's really going on, what's really happening in the world today. No wonder why we have all these horrible, heinous crimes and deaths that are happening in the Middle East. I just saw this post here by Seth Hart. He said, I've been in 4 wars as a soldier, a reporter, and seen a lot of atrocities and abuses, but dressing up in the clothes of women and girls you've killed and displaced is sick and twisted practice, wholly unique to the murderous perverts of the Israeli army. And that's exactly what they're sitting there doing. It's become an atrocity, this happening in the Middle East there. And there's all kinds of horrible stories. Iran's Ayatollah now is ordering a retaliatory attack against Israel after the IDF strike deemed too big to ignore, according to the report there. I can't think that this is all a setup in order to bring about another war in the Middle East there to create more havoc as you could only imagine there. It kind of reminds me when Barry Chamish, I had him on. This is back in my days of being a Zionist as well, so God forgive me for that. And please, you forgive me as well. I supported Israel so wholeheartedly. But Barry was trying to wake me up even at that time there. He being an Israeli soldier himself, a genuine Jewish man. He really believed, his faith. He didn't waver from his belief on that, but he was trying to expose the corruption within the Israeli government. Listen to this short little brief comment here on an interview that he did with me here. Listen in.
Well, I'm not going to dive into ISIS right now.
That's okay, Dave. Quite all right.
It gets very complicated. Read my article, my recent article. The fact that the murders of the 3 boys were from Hebron and not from Gaza. That's the part that Israel immediately blamed Hamas. ISIS takes responsibility and Israel blames Hamas. Now look, you're talking about shooting rockets at Israel. You're not talking about responsible government, all right? You got to be nuts. If you think there's not going to be retribution, that you take as the boys are kidnapped, the rockets start flying from Gaza. Now, look, you don't have to be a genius to know you're going to be hit back. They're killing Israel, but here's the setup. And follow this. Now,
I want to pause for a minute because I know it may be difficult to understand what Barry is saying there. He's talking about the 3 boys that were kidnapped. That's about 9 years ago, little Jewish boys. He clearly shows how that could have easily been prevented. They were hitchhikers. They were picked up. They were murdered. He said they could have easily stopped it. But he shows you the setup. He said Hamas begins to fire rockets. He said they know that Israel's going to retaliate brutally, just like October the 7th. But he shows you how that it's a setup to create the war. Listen to what he says.
Next, to get the war really going, a apparently you need to get the Arabs all kicked off, and they were in a tough situation, murdering three teenage hitchhikers didn't put them in a good light. So they figured, what the hell, let's just change the agenda a little bit and get one of ours killed. Look, a 15-year-old kid, his name was Muhammad Abu Qadir, was murdered brutally. But here's the part. His murderers were filmed, and it was all over the Arab world. Two of them, anyways, that I saw. And the police somehow have filmed the murderers of Muhammad Abu Qadir. Now, the next day...
Notice what he says. Muhammad Abu Qadir was filmed. His brutal murder. I remember it very well. I'm sure many of you do as well. It enraged the Arabic community. And that's what he says. They're trying to incite a war. Barry Chamish exposing this years ago. And the reason, he did the book, Who Killed Yitzhak Rabin. They killed Rabin because Rabin was trying to do a two-state solution, and they didn't want that. That wasn't the whole plan. That would totally annihilate the plan to bring about, and you got to really follow this, to bring about, he changes the times and the law. They want to build a third temple, and they're being pushed, even as Barak points out, it's that Messianic group that's running the nation right now. They're trying to bring this about. So they don't care who they kill. Israel is trying to incite the entire Arabic world to come against them to make it look like prophecy being fulfilled. And you're being duped right into the lie. And I'm going to try my best to help wake you up. I'm going to do everything I can to help wake you guys up on this. I mean, I'll put the link for this video here in there so you can go back and listen to it. 9 years old. But remember, though, I was unfortunately very Zionistic myself, fully supporting Israel with all that was in me, and totally not realizing how evil the things that were going on back then. All right, now, let's see. We covered some of these things here, and I told you, Barak, though. Barak is not the best guy either. This is a very article written by Barry Chamish. He says, in September 1996, Joseph's tomb in Shechem was besieged, and a dozen Israeli soldiers were abandoned by area commander Yisrael Itan and chief of staff Ehud Barak. One soldier within was left to bleed to death through a rescue, though a rescue could have been mounted in 10 minutes. The diplomatic goal was to surrender another holy Jewish shrine, and Barak personally oversaw the murder of 7 Israeli soldiers to get his way. As for Yisrael Itan, he was in a hotel room next to Rahavim Zavi. The day later was murdered. Draw your own conclusions. I've already drawn mine. They've all been on it. Ehud Barak right now, he's making this big boast and everything. Is that so that he can get into power once Netanyahu is out, but he'll still continue the same nonsense that he did years ago? Because he still calls Iran the enemy. He still says Hamas is the enemy. Hezbollah is the enemy. Are they just setting it up to make it look good? Right now the Arab world thinks that he's a great guy. They're promoting him. But Barry Chamish had other things to share with us about him, and that's something that we're just totally not looking at. So, the Ayatollah, I said it a little bit earlier, but I was a little bit premature. I meant to bring this out at the end. Attack against Israel after IDF strike deemed too big to ignore, so he is planning on ordering that. Like I said, the man has already been said to have terminal cancer, so I'm sure he doesn't really care if he dies or not at this point. So he wants to go all out. And that's exactly what Israel wants to see happen. In closing, let me just remind you, 5 minutes left. This is our YouTube channel. I'll put a link in there to the description for you to be able to see this here. We got 65 people joined up. Join up. This channel is going to be totally different. I am really going to go into, because I realize people's time is short, what could I say to you in 5 minutes that would impact your life, that would change your thought, that would show you a biblical insight like you never saw it before, that would Maybe it's something that's on your heart that you would like to know about, and you decide to send me an email about it and say, Brother Steve, could you hit this 5 minutes? Well, how would you address this situation? How would you speak about this in 5 minutes? It's not so much you only got 5 minutes left to live, but it's 5 minutes. I only have 5 minutes of your time. What could I do to impact your lives? That's what this channel is going to be about, and I'm getting things ready for it. I wanted to kind of put a video up that kind of spoke about how this channel is first, so that's why I've been a little bit backed up on getting that ready. We are still doing our Minute of Truth on Israeli News Live, but we hope you join this channel here, and very soon, in about the next 2 weeks here, this channel will launch off and we'll be promoting videos, hopefully on a couple of weeks. And by the way, to patreon.com/Israeli News Live. Subscribe there. We had more views on our Planet X series than any other videos in any other time. 1,400 views. That's like shocking to see so many views on Patreon. And we're going into another series here. I've got one more video still yet to do on Planet X, and then we're going to go into another series this month here. Besides the little short videos we'll be throwing in there as well along the way. Trying to share with you some interesting insights, but we are going into one of the biggest political crimes of the century that happened. Part of the Iran-Contra scandal, part of the things that I knew about this, and also a new insider that has shared with me what really went on in Mena, Arkansas. All of that is going to be over on our Patreon channel.com/Israeli News Live. So be sure to subscribe, get in there, and help support. It's a good way to support our broadcast. You can also support us at IsraeliNewsLive.org. We're really getting to the point now, it's better if you just donate right there online. And if you're having any trouble, just let us know you're having trouble if you're not able to donate online there. All other links like EMP Shield, something I think that everyone should have with the way things are going right now in the world, LifeWave, etc. It's all there. You can just one click, you can go and check those things out. I'm Stephen Ben-Nun. You're watching Israeli News Live. God bless you and have a great day.